Hey guys, Chelsea from Attention to Details, and today we're going to be doing an interior only detail. This is actually for a customer that she's about to have a baby and she's wanting to get her car just kind of nice and fresh and clean before baby comes. This is actually the first time that she's ever had her vehicle detailed in 8 years, and it kind of shows. There's quite a few spills, especially alongside our seats. Now, I don't pull seats. Some of you can. I consider that a liability because if I don't torque things down properly, I don't want that on me. So we actually do not pull seats here. I kind of wish I could actually pull this whole back seat out and pressure wash it. It is grody. But we're going to be actually testing out a new vacuum today. And I don't know about you, but I consider the vacuum to be the #1 most important tool for detailing besides you. And so it's really important that you choose the right one for the job. Now, obviously, we have quite a bit of work that we have to do on this interior. And unfortunately, because of time limitations, I wasn't able to film 100% of this entire detail because I just had so much that we had to do. But I will share with you guys, especially in these problem areas, some tips on how to manage them for those of you that maybe are in a similar situation or you're just looking for tips to get better results on interiors. Obviously, we're going to extract a majority of that is going to be off camera, but stay tuned for the end result. But for now, let's go ahead and get started. So the game plan for today is an interior only, but on the interior, we have a good bit of work that we have to do. We need to vacuum thoroughly, and a lot of the stuck-on stuff we can actually vacuum up, so that way when we come in to extract, it will be a lot faster. We are going to use my Mighty Heated Extractor on this. Oftentimes I use my Aqua Pro Vac because it allows me to get into some tighter spaces a lot better than my Mighty. And honestly, I have less hand fatigue, but I think for this interior, with the amount of staining in the seats, plus she needs to pick this up earlier, I want to try to get it dried out as fast as possible. And sometimes the heated extractor has, it dries faster, plus it has a little bit more lift than my Aqua Pro Vac, so I think we're going to use the Mighty Extractor for today. But when it comes to vacuuming, I've actually been using the same vacuum for the last 7 years. I did a review years ago, one of my earlier videos on the best vacuum for auto detailing, and the same vacuum that I did in that video is the same vacuum I've been using for 7 years. It has worked flawlessly for me. I've never had to replace it. The things that I love most about the Ridgid vacuum, you can see it is compact. It's 5 horsepower. I can actually put it right up on my shelf over here, so that way it's not taking up a lot of floor space. If you're a mobile detailer, size is definitely a huge issue. When it comes to vacuums, for me, the things that I've always looked for is horsepower. I need at least a minimum of 5 horsepower to be able to lift everything out of the carpets well. I need something that is compact, and I also want something that has a hose that gives me the capabilities to do what I need to do. A lot of times the hoses that come with standard wet dry vacs, they're the thick black ones. They're shorter. They don't allow you to kind of lift it up over your shoulder because when you're doing trunks, maybe on an SUV, you don't want that hose dragging over the paint. You need something longer. Plus they're thinner. They're not as cumbersome. They don't get caught on the vehicles as much. So the Ridgid detailing hose kit has been perfect for me. I think honestly it's one of the best additions you can make to a well-working vacuum. But the biggest issue that I've had lately with my vacuum, it's not the suction, it's not the compactness, it's the volume. I'm 39 years old, almost 40, and I've been vacuuming for 7+ years, and sometimes when I'm doing interiors on really bad ones, I could be vacuuming anywhere from 1 to 3 hours straight with a vacuum. One, it's really fatiguing on my hand. That's why I like the smaller hose. It's not as exhausting on me. But that's a lot of really loud decibels on my ear for an extended period of time. I actually wear a Apple Watch, and I've been constantly getting notifications from it that I'm in too loud of a setting. If I'm in levels over 90 decibels for an extended period of time, I can actually have long-term hearing loss. And that has become a big concern for me. Those of you that are looking for something to help protect their ears, I greatly encourage you guys to get a pair of noise-canceling headphones. You don't necessarily have to listen to music. You can listen to a podcast or whatever, a book. I listen to Audible books a lot of times. But when it comes to vacuums, oftentimes we're kind of limited if you want something that is compact and powerful to kind of have to deal with the noise volume until now. So this is the DeWalt StealthSonic vacuum. It is supposed to be 50% quieter than the standard wet dry vac volume levels. It is a 5 horsepower vacuum, and some of the features that I liked about this immediately upon unboxing, we have really nice caster wheels that this kind of just floats on the floor. And as far as some other features, if you have your hose here, you can kind of wrap it around, and then they give you a nice way to kind of store the hose, so that way it's not kind of flopping around the garage space. Pull that off, have quick access to it. We also have a nice bag in the back that you can put your attachments in. Personally, I am not going to use their attachments. If you're doing construction around the house, yes, they can be perfect. This is their crevice attachment. You can see it's kind of wider, bulkier. You're not going to be able to get into a lot of those tight spaces like you would with another crevice attachment. So we're not going to really use these for detailing. You can use them around the house. I actually am going to use this as a trash can, so that way I can kind of throw my customers' bottles, anything else that I find in the back of the seat. There's actually holes in the bottom of the bag, so if you spill anything, you can drain out. It is plastic lined, so you can kind of rinse it out. So I think that's nice for interior detailing. We're kind of thinking outside the box. So we'll test out the sound levels in just a second, but as far as features that I don't like about this vacuum, the number one thing is this hose. If you were to come in here, oh my gosh, this thing, oh my gosh, this is why I hate them. You can't control them. I think DeWalt, if they can come up with their own version of an auto detailing hose like Ridgid, that would be fantastic. These hoses here, they are short. They are thick and cumbersome to kind of work with. For my hand, you know, you're not going to be able to get around it, and so you have to kind of grip it a little bit more, and they can kind of just get away from you. So I feel like I am going to spend more energy kind of trying to overcome this hose. Plus, it's not as long for interior detailing. Sometimes you want a longer hose. You don't want to have the vacuum like so close to you because you don't have hose to give you slack. So personally, this is my biggest drawback for interior detailing is the hose. But actually, if you look at the diameter of this hose and compare it to the Ridgid auto detailing hose, you can see they are precisely exact. So, away with you. We're going to actually use our Ridgid auto detailing hose, and then I can actually put my favorite crevice attachment on that, and we should be good to go with vacuuming. So the vacuum that I've been using the last 7 years, let's go ahead and quickly compare the noise levels from this vacuum, and we'll also do this one for those of you that maybe you have this one as well. Both great options for mobile detailers, both super compact, but when it comes to noise levels, let's go ahead and compare that to our StealthSonic. Here's our Ridgid Pro. A little lower of a decibel, maybe not as loud. This one's higher, but still pretty loud. I actually let my kids use this one because it's not as loud in their ears. Now let's compare that to our StealthSonic. So it's a little higher, but greatly reduced. That's what it sounds like when it is at full peak. So I think we do have a good bit of reduction, but let's actually see if I get any sort of alerts on my watch from this vacuum like I do with this one, because if I have this one on for over half an hour, I always get alerts on my watch. So I'm actually curious to see if we get the same kind of alerts with this vacuum. Not going to say that that will remove that risk, but we definitely want to try to decrease that risk. Thing to consider is if you're vacuuming and working around houses where sometimes you have to be considerate of noise levels. Let's say you're a next door neighbor. You can hear it, but it's a lot quieter. Power cord isn't as long as a Ridgid, but that's okay. I have extension cords. We've got our brushes, our long crevice attachment, and good old Faithful. I feel like we should name her. There's a fingernail in there. Ugh. There's so much nastiness along these seats. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Put you over there. Let's go ahead and get her started up. So this was my first time working with the DeWalt StealthSonic vacuum. I've actually been working with this vacuum every day since I recorded this video, which has been about 2 weeks. And I have to say, it is performing really well for me. I do notice that it is slightly not as powerful as my Ridgid vacuum. There are actually certain circumstances where I feel like sometimes it is lacking a little bit. But nonetheless, I am still very impressed with what it is capable of doing and the fact that it is greatly reduced with volume. In fact, when I wear my earbuds, which are the noise canceling headphones, there are times that I actually think that the vacuum is turned off. I'm like, did someone turn it off? It's that quiet when you wear protection. So that is huge decrease in volume for me, and that is one of the more impressive features that I find with this vacuum. Now, do I think that this vacuum is for everyone? No. If you're a mobile detailer, something like the Ridgid vacuum is going to have a much smaller footprint, especially for those of you that maybe you're working out of a sedan or a smaller size vehicle where size really does matter. I think the Ridgid, for its size, is one of the most powerful and better vacuums for auto detailing. But nonetheless, if you do have space and you're looking for something that is a little bit quieter, maybe you are mobile, you're working at customers' homes where you're trying to be mindful of how much noise you create, I think this is a really nice feature to be able to offer, that you're not going to be quite as noticeable to the surrounding neighborhood. And for those of you that are watching and are wondering, why is she showing this same spot for so long? Good Lord, this is a long time to vacuum one section. Welcome to impossible carpets. There's a reason why as detailers we call them impossible carpets, because sometimes it feels impossible to pull all the dirt from deep within them. It's almost like a chaotic bunch of fibers that if you have straw, pine needles, pet hair, sand, just dirt in general, sometimes it can feel impossible to pull it out of the carpet. And you'll notice I'm using a tool. It's called a bone scraper. This is actually really popular within the kind of residential or commercial carpet cleaning industry. But you can actually use this to kind of pull up pine needles, sticky messes. A majority of the deeper dirt that was in the carpet, we were able to pull up almost to the point that I didn't need to extract these carpets. A lot of times you don't necessarily need to extract if you can remove the soiling, and half the time dry soiling can just be agitated and then vacuumed up. We did do quite a bit of extraction, mainly on our seats and also on our mats. But for those of you that maybe you're thinking, I don't get really good results with my vacuum step, a lot of it comes down to the tools that you're using alongside of it. You can see I'm using really stiff brushes and that bone scraper to agitate and pull up the dirt deep within the fibers so that then you can easily vacuum it up. But yeah, for those wondering, this is in 7x time lapse, and it took me about 3 hours to vacuum this car from start to finish. But here's just a quick demonstration. Again, if you have sticky messes, slime, gum, things like that, you don't necessarily always have to freeze them. The bone scraper will come in super handy to be able to kind of help pry those sticky elements off of the carpet. And you can see underneath, we practically had clean carpet that we didn't need to do any sort of heavy extraction. But unfortunately, I did stab myself. Now for the sides of our seats, for those of you that might struggle with this, I've done dedicated video reviews on this in the past, but you can see we're in the back and I have the seat slid as far forward as possible. And we're going to use that narrow, stiff brush to pull all of the dirt backwards, and we're going to vacuum it up. Anything that's sticky, anything that's stained, it actually comes up really well with agitation. Then you're going to repeat that same process, move to the front seat, slide the seat as far back as possible, and you're basically going to be able to get end-to-end contact to clean. You can use a combination of steam, compressed air with an APC to clean the seat tracks. If there's any sort of residual staining, you can always use a microfiber to clean. But you can see it takes a really nasty job and makes it effortless. So I've been vacuuming for a little over an hour and a half, and I just got my first loud environment warning. Now again, this probably is not that precise of a meter. Not gonna lie, that's a little disheartening. I was thinking, man, we're an hour and a half straight into using this thing. It's performing great. Maybe this is the answer, but we're still getting that warning. So yeah, you definitely still need to wear some noise canceling headphones, but more importantly, for like those that live around you, maybe it's not going to be as obnoxiously loud, but Still definitely have to be careful with this vacuum for long periods of time of using it. So personally, the best that I have found so far have been the earbuds. I'll put the link to these down below, and every now and then Amazon runs a special on them. And there's different settings that you can put it on as far as for like if you start talking, it'll kind of take that away. But I have it on the noise canceling setting, and it honestly, it sounds like if you were to put your ear up to a seashell, that kind of sound. Especially polishing, these are great to have because when you've got that polisher maybe 12 inches from your face, these make a huge difference. So I'll put the link for them down below, and hopefully you guys can pick them up maybe if there's a sale running on, but they are worth every penny for me. Now, as for extracting, because we had so much that we had to do, I actually did use my acrylic steamer. Because of all of these sticky messes, we used the steamer to loosen up a lot of the dirt, and then came in with the mighty heated extractor, as well as Superior Products Omegazyme. This is an enzymatic solution to go after all of the sticky messes. This was actually 3-year-old ice cream that the customer had spilled on the mat, and you can see we pulled up so much dirt from this interior. If you guys enjoy videos like this, would you give us a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe? I wanted to share with you guys maybe a unique look at the new StealthSonic vacuum and what it was capable of doing. And you can see it did a fantastic job. We spent about 3 hours vacuuming, and a good bit of that was just to make the rest of the detail a lot easier. We spent an hour extracting our seats and our mats, and about an hour cleaning our plastics and glass. So 5 hours from start to finish. But a majority of the work was done with our vacuuming step alone. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this closer look and a little bit more of a different approach to vacuums and how important they can be, not only for interior detailing, but also to try to keep your hearing and your health in peak shape. But if you guys enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe for future details that we have coming up. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next detail.